I'm Eddie Garcia here with Randy Randall of No Age, and we're going to talk about what he has going on to get the unique sounds of No Age, and he's very interesting things going on here for signal flow. So
cool. All right, should we go down and take a look? All right, let's start. Let's take it in. So I run Epiphone Sheridan 2 with hot pickups with a Seymour Duncan JB in the treble position and a 490R in the neck position. And it comes in here to the Boss tuner, kind of the start of it all. Goes into a full tone fat boost.
The fat boost on like all the time?
No, kind of, yeah, it'll kind of help boost it. It really depends on the backline, on what we have. You know, there's a lot of different touring all the time. You're sort of left with different amp configurations, so you sort of have to design a pedal board that can be flexible enough to sort of mesh with lots of different types of amps and heads and tubes and solid states and whatever works. So this fat boost is kind of my my overall signal pusher. If I need something to kind of just distort a little bit more, you can kind of get that from here. Works really well with tube heads. Obviously, it kind of just really pushes them and warms them up.
Yeah.
But that's not always... you'll see as we get to the end of this, it all kind of gets squashed down anyway. So it's flexible enough that it almost negates itself. There's a lot of stuff I'm sure the tone purist out there will be sickened by some of the things I do towards the end of my signal, because it all kind of, like I said, it has to kind of work out of the box every time, no matter where I go. I sort of have to be able to plug it in and play it.
That must have developed over time, right?
Yeah, and lots of mistakes and lots of, like, wouldn't it be great if I did this? And you develop a whole kind of run just for one type of sound, and then you use it on a different amp, and it just all falls apart and doesn't sound right. So anyway, tuner into a full tone fat boost, into ZVEX Fuzz Factory, which is an incredible kind of dentist drill, sort of just a piercing distortion. This has been with me for a while. These road stickers and truck stop stickers kind of make it into the what I see every night.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Like, I mean, you really got to dial it in, right? Like subtle movements can make a big
yeah. Like I kind of for the tone arm of it, it kind of goes up here to the light. You know, so I kind of fluctuate from here to there, and I can kind of ride it with my shoe, kind of just off to the side. It's kind of the lower tone, and then this is about as high as I go. Up here, it just kind of crystallizes into like almost mist, and everything else I just kind of run down to zero except for the volume. So this is kind of my first guitar signal. Everything gets affected by this, and then here we go into the Morley George Lynch tripler, which is a three-way splitter with a boost, with a signal booster built into it. So this is where things start to get interesting. But as at this point, everything's affected by these distortions across all channels, and then we start to split it up. So first channel goes out relatively clean, meaning it's just the distortion. That's my first channel, which will get sent out to the amps, just distortion. Second channel comes into this Ernie Ball volume pedal, and I'll go one by one there. So the second channel comes into the volume pedal, which goes into a Boss DD5, which I've, again, over the years, you just kind of takes on character as you stare at this stuff nightly. So the Boss DD5, a lot of times I'll have it on the reverse, and you can kind of swell up into these great sort of layered reversing, lapping tones. And then I have a stereo out where first channel from the DD5 goes into my fourth channel in the mixer. Then the second one comes over here into this my first Jamman. This is the earlier model with the bigger buttons. It comes down here. This is the newer model, which is stereo, but this is the mono Digitech Jamman, which has a flash memory card. When you put it in there, you get up to 6 hours of loop storage, and 99 banks. So it's a robust, kind of on the floor sampler for a guitar player.
Have a lot of the stuff that you do in a record, like the little things you'll have it on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these are things that are pre-recorded, and also allows me to do live looping and long live looping, not just 10 seconds or I mean I could go about 10 minutes of live looping into this thing. So I use it for both, and this runs out into the amps. This Digitech Jamman is a stereo one, and this only has preloaded samples in it, and this goes straight to the house. So these are kind of for more atmospheric things that we've done on the record that go out just to the house. It takes the place of having a sampler on stage for the. I think I was telling you 2 records ago, we had a guy on stage just triggering samples.
Yeah.
So this, in essence, is one half of all those samples, and Dean has one as well
you
for
run into
his.
the house, so that way it's clean.
Exactly.
You can dial it in the levels.
Yeah.
Battling your amp.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a kind of separate chain over there. But this one goes in. So I do live looping here, and then this also will run pre-recorded samples out of the amps as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of just for textures and layers of songs, particular songs. So that's the end of channel 2. Channel 3 is something I open up for this guitar DI. I have a guitar Sans amp here. By opening this up, like this Sans amp stays on the whole time, and that's running out into the house. And it's kind of a higher tone, trebly, kind of thinner distortion sound. And this is something I can open up for like solos or leads or kind of punches. It kind of works as a treble boost to the overall signal. So it's like opening up a 4th amp.
So why did you decide to send those types of sounds to the house instead of going through another amp?
Because essentially I just need that higher, crispier tone boost out, and it's really I just need it for out there. And I'll get some coming back to me in the monitor. But it's the kind of thing where to carry another amp for like 10 seconds of a song, it just starts to, you know what I mean? You do it, you know, in every other song, it just becomes another thing to run. Like by doing this, it's like carrying another amp with you on wherever you go, but you can just send it out to the house. So by doing this, and what becomes fun when I'm playing live, I've developed this sort of this tri-corner area. There'll be times when I need to with my one foot hit the guitar DI on, trigger the loop, and hit the ZVEX at the same time. So so I'll have the rhythm kind of looped in here. I'll loop a rhythm part like a verse earlier in the song, and then after the second chorus, I need to go into a solo. So now I have the verse saved in here, and I'm gonna hit this house DI on, as well as get the signal real crispy. So I already have all the low end and the mids, and so this is going to go out to all 3 amps behind me. So I'll have like a rhythm player going here at this, so while simultaneously triggering this kind of lead guitar tone that'll go out there. So it becomes this big stomp.
You don't hit the knobs hitting all 3 of those on the
sometimes.
ZVEX?
Yeah.
And flippers?
No. I've realized flat shoes work. Like a boot with a heel messes the whole thing up. So you kind of have to have a flat sort of skate shoe. So sometimes I'll have that with this foot and then trigger one of these, do like a tip tap. Yeah. But this has become the newest strange tap dance corner for me over here. And then there'll be other songs where I just can kick this out of the way, and I'll just be hitting these. I don't need to. Sometimes this will get in the way, so it kind of floats in and out of there. So that's these 3 channels here. And those 3 channels run into this Behringer 4-channel mixer. So I have one which is the cleaner distortion, which I run all the way to the left, and then out of my left signal, that'll go into the mid-range thing. Like at home, this will be into my Model T full stack. So that's just your distortion, just clean distortion going into there. Then the 4th channel is the affected channel that comes off of this DD5. So that 4th channel goes all the way right. I pan that all the way right, and that right one goes into the higher channels. Okay. Goes into like a higher amp. Like tonight, it's the DeVille. Okay. And this left one is the twin reverb. And then, so that's where those 2 go. 1 and 4 is clean. This is the 4. It comes out of this DD5. And then the 3rd channel here is the output from this Jamman, and I send that right up the middle through left and right. So that'll go to both amps simultaneously. This channel here is from the PA Jamman. If I ever want to kind of sweeten up the mix with that, like send some of those signals out of the PA or out of the amps if I need it. If I'm not hearing it out of the monitor enough, it kind of gives me that backup. Usually I keep it pretty low, but I can throw it into the mix if I need it. If I'm not hearing it out of the DI or out of the monitors enough. So that's where these all run into, and it allows me to take 4 channels and send those 4 channels to all 3 amps I have on stage. So it's essentially like a 7-way splitter with a kind of a rudimentary sort of solid state gain stage and these kind of rough sort of tones as well. So I can kind of like affect the tone a little bit. And there is some effects built into this unit, like a ping pong effect that I'll use on a song like Eraser or Sleeper Hold from Nouns. Like this was kind of used a lot in the writing process of Nouns. And then I also have a master fader here where I can kill the whole signal. All the guitars can just come down. Like, it's a thing where if I'm on stage and they need the stage volume to come down, I can take it from 1 down to 0.2. Yeah. And kind of just do a quick macro, like just stage volume and stage gain, like just take the whole thing down with this fader. Kind of helps in the shaping of, like I said, with a different backline. And the last part of it, so from the headphones out, I send the headphones, which gets your right and left. It's a stereo signal out, and that goes into this bass EQ, this Boss bass EQ, where I kind of boost some of the low frequencies. That runs into this POG, where I have the it's an octave generator, and so I run the dry all the way up, and then the subs kind of in the middle, and that goes into this bass DI, this bass Sans amp DI, which goes out to the house, to kind of low end,
So
and then also to the bass trigger. Yeah, and this goes to the bass amp on stage as well. I kind of bypass that and parallel out.
So you're sending the house media signal and the thin signal.
Yeah, and they're getting the onstage bass, but again, you don't always know what you're going to have. So this kind of goes, especially for the low end, just you need so much signal to push the subs to kind of get a fuller sound. So this will go straight to the subs and kind of fill out and round out the sound. And so that's kind of where it goes. So in essence, I mean, the only thing that really changes the sound is, I give 2 different types of distortion and 1 delay pedal. This is something that I kind of run hardly ever. This is if we're going to get real dubby. It's this Digitech digital delay. Okay. But I rarely have it on there. This is if the show's going long or we need to get real weird, I can kind of introduce this into in between songs. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And then, so you're flying in and out of shows, taking with your borrowing amps and everything.
So this all comes together. Yeah, this thing goes into this big gray flight case over there. That's a company called Stompin' Ground out of Lincoln, Nebraska. They make these real thin Velcroed boards that go into the flight case, and for flying you got to get it under 50 pounds. So when I take out the 2 Jamman and carry them in the guitar case, and take out all the cabling, so all this stuff comes out of the case, and then I get it down to 49 pounds. Okay. And that way, if they lose all this stuff, which has happened on tour, at least I have my samples, my preloaded samples with me.
But you found it again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It gets. I mean, it gets lost, and you know what I mean. But then they deliver it hopefully by sound check, or you get it the next day when you fly to the next town. So it's gone around the world a few times.
With having such a specific setup, that's a derail. But so that's happened before. You've had the show, and your gear didn't show up.
Yeah. So well, in essence, I mean, I can get away with like a distortion pedal and. You just kind of go from there. Yeah, hopefully, or whatever you can get away with. We had to do a few different ways. We played a festival in Poland a few years back, and Jay Mascis was with Dinosaur Jr. and they were flying from Italy to Poland, and they lost their whole pedal board setup. So Jay was like just in the lobby, like, "Hey, could I borrow some pedals?" And I was like, "Are you kidding?" It was like a dream come true. Like, Jay Mascis wants to borrow a pedal. I was like, "Of course." I was like, "You can have the whole thing." So I just gave him the whole pedal board. I was like, "Just whatever you need." And he had his guitar tech, and they kind of went through. He's like, "Do you have a Morley ABY Splitter?" I was like, "Yes, Jay, I do." Like, I have 3 of. At that point, I had 3 of them on here. I was like, "That'd be great." He's like, "Do you have a ZVEX Fuzz Factory?" I was like, "I do." That'd be great. And so I got a shout out from the show, from the stage, like, "Thanks, No Age, for letting us borrow some pedals." It was very exciting for me.
Yeah, no, I understand.
That was huge. So yeah.
So I want to ask you too. I noticed when you were sound checking, there wasn't a lot of noise for running all this stuff. Everything was pretty clean. You don't have like a noise gate or anything like that. And you're running a power strip. A lot of guys get like, "Oh, I need this $150 pedal power thing, or I need this isolated."
No. I mean, the signal is fairly noisy. I think in terms of professional rock and roll outfits, we're on the noisier side, but that's kind of where we are anyway. You know what I mean? And I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things I can worry about and certain things I just can't worry about. And it comes down to like ounces and pounds of what you carry. Yeah. You kind of need the bare bones stuff of what you can get away with. So yeah. I mean, I don't go too specific because like just night after night, you're just crunching these things and kids are stepping on them and kid's gonna crowd surf off your expensive pedal that you brought all the way from America and break it. And if you can't find another one in a guitar shop in England, or you know what I mean, or in Spain, if you can't find a thing, it's you kind of like all of this stuff's in production. I don't have anything that isn't that's that rare or vintage, or that you can't find. The only thing I couldn't find is these samples that I have preloaded. But there's these. What's cool about these Jamman is they have a USB out, so you can save it all onto a hard drive. So worst case scenario, you lose those, and then you just buy a new one and load up your samples off your hard drive.
That's great.
So it's all. I mean, it's definitely a working man's thing. I think there's prettier, better sounding, more intricate, setups out there. But for me, this is kind of what I need, my tool belt, my Batman utility belt. And it always looked, and I had people like, oh, it's so complicated. And it's like, the majority of it's just sending signal to one place or another, just getting as much sound out of this one guitar that I can get. And that's kind of where it all came from. The whole idea, the motivation for all of this stuff was, one, to be as loud as the drummer, who's loud, and so just how to build up a signal, and then also just being one guy on stage, how do you get a low end, a mid, and a high, and still create something that has enough modulation where just being one guy creating that melodic signal, how do you break it out and recombine it in enough ways that, you can create a modulated, dynamic sound that comes and goes and has different elements in it, so that it's just not a single tone the entire time. For me, I kind of got excited about that challenge to really kind of create this varied set with just being one guy. Yeah. So that's kind of where it goes. So you can kind of go clean, you go loud, and kind of layer them all up. And it's and like I said, there's nothing that secretive about it. It's all everything does a job on here. I mean, there's a few things I wish I could. The Eventide harmonizer fact. There's things like, oh, that'd be sweet to have, but when it's expensive and it gets lost, and you just my big take on effects, as much as I look like an effect guy, I kind of hate phasers and phalangers and anything that just makes one sound. It's like, well, that's great, you put it in the one song, and then we're going to come back and then, here's the next song that goes like, how many songs can you go like you just that a lot, it's just annoying, I don't want to hear a band that every song goes or this is the song that and I think I definitely have some cheats. I put a lot of feedback, I put a lot of like zzz, the whole thing goes really electric sounding, but to me hopefully there's a dynamic motivation than that, less than a you got the outer space tone, it sounds like there's a UFO landing on stage. Like, I don't have any UFO sounds. It just kind of goes electric and goes big and loud and noisy constantly. We do that a lot, but I think that's kind of the nature of the band and this sort of sound, is that things are going to get loud and quiet. It's sort of that's the biggest kind of dynamic element of it. But there's not any super wacky Mooger Foogers or oscillators or anything like that.
It is, and it's the dynamic sound.
Yeah. I feel like dynamics you're allowed to get away with in every song. If you have a loud part and a quiet part, that can kind of do that as many times as you want. But you put in that real outer space ring modulator, and you blow your load. That's it. You get the one ring modulator per set. I don't think you can do it every song. I learned that kind of early on. So all those funny weirdo, the prettier painted outsider boutique thing that just makes you sound like you're floating in space is like, I don't need it. That's great. It's going to cost $7,000, and there's only one in existence, and it looks amazing, but I can't play that every single night on the road, so I pass on a lot of that stuff. But I think if you're, if you got a 12-piece band and everybody else is, and you're going to be the guy with, you're going to be Johnny Greenwood, you can kind of create this whole thing, because you got two other guitar players up there and a synth player and a programmed, rhythm track. You can do all that, and then have you're putting in your cricket sounds from outer space over it, and and you have 14 techs and two semis that carry all this stuff. Go right ahead, and that boutique pedal is all yours. But for me, we fly and drive ourselves. We don't fly. I mean, we fly around, just the two of us, and we drive. So we don't have a big crew or anything. So this works. It gets the weirdest. I get weird with my stickers. Stickers are free and don't cost a lot. So it's just something for me to look at.